Formaffinity,
where design takes form.
Hey guys, welcome to another Formaffinity video. Today we are going to do the third installment, part 3 of this universal joint, which will mostly cover a little bit of texturing and rendering. So first, let's just dive right in. I'm going to save as, and rather than a model, I'm just going to name this color. So U-joint color A01. So whenever I'm doing moving out of the model phase to texturing and rendering, I just rename so I can find it easier. So I rename it color. You might do something like R and D for render, but either or. So I'm going to save that. And now, excuse me, in our outliner over here, we're going to just clean up our scene a little bit. So that center plus, I'm just going to name it U-joint plus. And you'll notice I name everything the same. So U-joint, this cylinder, or both of these cylinders will be U-joint as well, and we'll just name it U-joint, what are those, the hex screws? Hex A, U-joint, hex B. And the reason I name everything this way, so they all start with U-joint, is that if I carry this over into another scene with other objects, it's easy to find all this. So I'm going to just rename this to B. Those are our caps, so these will be caps B, caps A. Okay. Okay, and now we've got, those are our objects. And I want to carry this camera scenes view layer. Okay, so if we go up here and change from scenes to view layer, we can right click in here and create new. So this will be collection, whatever we want to name it. So I'm going to name it cam lights. So put my camera in there, put my light in there. Delete that one. Okay, and then this collection we'll just name U-joint underscore mesh. Okay, and I'm going to Control S to save that. Okay, so now we just want to, I think we'll lay it flat the way that the original image is. Okay, so I'm just going to select all those guys there and rotate and just set it to 90. As you can see, our height difference. So let's just do a quick edit here. I'm going to select these verts. And what are we on? Go to global here. for our orientation, make sure you're on transform orientations global. I'm missing some here. So let's turn subdiv off for a second. There we go. Now let's go into front view, ortho. Just want to match it to that back view there of this guy. Okay, and now let's just delete this one and Shift D, escape, and rotate. $180. Okay, and we'll do the same thing as before. What is that? Left, ortho, wireframe. Okay. Back into perspective. And we will just rotate it now, going this way. Let's see. Going that way. 90 degrees. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so that's a little bit better. I think in our original modeling, I left that out. I think when we look at this, for it to sit flat, these would probably be, it looks like this kind of lines up with the level of that. So I think that just looks a little bit better. More of a kind of a even symmetrical form going on there. Okay, so cool. So let's start by modeling our scene. So I'm going to hit Shift A, under Mesh, create a plane. I'm just going to scale that larger. And something you'll notice is that it created it at the 3D cursor. So let's just go ahead and delete that really quick. Delete. And reset our 3D cursor to the base down there. Okay. Okay, now I can turn it off. Shift A, plane. Now you can see. So if you ever run into that problem, that's how you fix it. Okay, and a little bit bigger. Where's our camera? So there's our camera. That doesn't really matter though. Let's just move this over here. And we'll go into edit mode, face. We'll add some segments here. And let's grab this edge and move it up, maybe in a bit. kind of like that, and then I'm just going to hit Control E and then escape, and now using the transform move, move that up. Okay, now I'm going to grab this edge and hit Control B and add a bevel. We'll just add some segments there. Okay, same with this one, Control B. Now this object we'll set to smooth. I'm just going to kind of zoom in here and hitting the space bar for our quad menu, I'll hit cam to view. So now our camera is in this view. Since we're basically done with this, we can just change our editor type for right now to 3D viewport, and then hitting space we'll go to active camera. Okay, now I can grab this and position it I think we want to be over some. I'm just going to rotate. Okay, that's good for now. Let's do a quick render. Okay, so that's Eevee. Let's change our background here to something darker. And let's go ahead and swap over to cycles. Path tracing, sRGB, filmic. We'll go under look to medium contrast. We might change it later to high, but for now. Okay, so I just did a render using cycles, and so it looks, we're looking at something like this. So pretty good. For testing purposes though, I am going to change this back down. I think it's, what is it, 1280 by 720. So 720p. Now I want to add, under cam lights layer, we'll go to light and add an area. Just gonna move it up and back and rotate it kind of up this way. So that's just going to sit back there, and I'm going to scale it out. Let's create another area light, bring it up. Now I'm going to scale it. Let's scale it this way. I'm going to bring it over and then just Shift D to duplicate and move it over to here. So this light back here will be sort of our rim light, and then we'll have our two overhead lights, and then the point light will move out in front, maybe opposite camera here, so we can play around with that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit a render. Okay, so this is what that render turned out. So it's actually pretty cool. We're getting sort of a kind of a Halloween flashlight in a tent kind of vibe going on here. That point light is pretty strong, and we're getting a good 1, 2, 3 read on all of our surfaces here. But I do want to strive for more of kind of a studio lighting setup, so we will adjust some of those lights there. First, our point, we'll go into the light options for it. It's at 1000 watts. Let's bump it down to 200. And let's give it a slight warm hue to that. Okay, and now our area light. So if that was 200 watts and this is 10, let's change this to, say, 500. I'll give it a slight blue, kind of as if it were the sky. We'll do, let's try 400 on this one. We'll go more towards the red on this one. Okay. And then our rim light on the back, we'll try 400 on that as well. And blue, towards the blue. These lights will help give the object sort of a metallic look just by the way that they're colored. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save and do another render. So here's the result of those settings. So much more kind of a studio set look for this object, as if you were doing sort of product photography. And I really like what's going on here with the contrast between the background and the object here. We've got some smooth transitions here, a little bit sharper here. That's probably that, well, it could be the rim light. But we've got, we lost a bit of the 1, 2, 3 read on the object itself, a lot of blowouts. So let's try and bump down the area lights. So let's see, that was 400, this one was at 500. Let's try setting this to 300. This one to 200. And the back one to 200. And maybe 150 on that point light. Okay, and then do another render. Okay, so that's a lot better. We're starting to see our forms here pretty nicely. Of course, we'll have to bump up the the render sampling to get a cleaner render, but for what this is so far, it's looking pretty good. I like the warmth in the foreground. We can maybe use a little bit more cool coming back from the rim light there, and then maybe notch down those overheads just a hair more. So let's do that. So if this one's at 300, let's drop it down to 200. 100 for that one. 100. Let's say 150 actually for the rim, and add a little bit more blue to it. Okay, and do another render. So that's the result of those settings. I really like the contrast and colors from the warm and the cools in the back. And this is pretty cool. Really pops out the object. If we hit N on the keyboard and go over to, I believe, scopes, you can check out your histogram here if you like. And you can kind of see, individually you have your R for red, green, and blue there. And you can see we're topping off on some of the highs there. Probably kind of in this area. But it looks pretty good though. I think that's an okay place to start texturing. So usually what I like to do is kind of get the render prepped first prior to texturing when I'm doing this type of scene, and then I'll texture, and then I'll tweak the render a little bit from there. So let's go ahead and move on into texturing. I'm just going to go ahead and save. I'm going to change our view here back to image really quick, and just expand that. So you can see this is just, it's not super shiny in our ref. We've got kind of a warmer metal here. The hex screws are a bit cooler in color, but nothing super specular or super shiny. It's kind of more of a smooth transition in our reflections. You can even see that here. I'm going to just turn off cam lights for now. Go into hypershade. Okay, and we'll select one of these objects. So that's that U-joint outer. I'm going to create a new material for it. Principled BSD is fine. Let's change this to multi-scattered GGX. In our base color, we had slightly warm. Ever so slightly. And let's bump up the metallic. And take the roughness down. You can kind of see what it's doing in here. Let's name this material just metal. What should we name it? Metal warm. Okay, now I'm going to jump over to this object and apply that metal warm to it as well. And same with that plus. Metal warm. Okay, now let's grab the hex screw, create new. metal cool. Change those settings. Let's do more of a cool blue. Bump down the darkness a little bit there. Over here we'll bump up the metallic. Lower the roughness a little bit. Okay. And grab those guys there and apply that metal cool to them. Let's also grab those 4 guys there and apply the warm. Same with here. Warm. Okay, and now our main floor set. Let's create a new for that. We'll just title it floor. And excuse me, I'm gonna bring the specular down quite a bit there, and we'll just leave the other settings for now. So back in modeling, I'll turn my cam lights back on, and we'll do a render for that. So that's looking pretty good. I think the outer parts here are looking a little bit kind of like porcelain or eggshell. These guys here, pull that back up. Those are looking pretty good. And the reflectivity overall is looking pretty good, I think. Yeah. So let's go in here and back to Hypershade. So this is metal warm. So that base color, let's put it just a hair to the cool. And I want to notch it down a little bit for our default value. So it'll be cool, more of kind of a gray, but not as cool as our hex screws. And let's bump up the metallic to, let's say, 0.3. And then for metal cool, metallic, let's see. Yeah, that's about 0.3. Okay. Okay, and then I want to take the floor actually and give it some color towards the blue. Let's try bringing down quite a bit the value. Say, we'll just do 0.5 for right now. And we'll do a render on that. So there's the result of those changes. You can see quite a big difference. You can see how the changing basically the environment, that floor texture, how big of a difference it makes on the lighting of the whole scene. And that's really cool. We've got some really nice specular transitions going on here. This is all looking very nice. This looks great. So I think just a few edits here. Let's go ahead and take advantage of our slot 1. We'll go to slot 2 now. And that way this is saved and we can compare. I'm also going to file save this one and then save as again. And we'll call this AO2. So this will be sort of our second our render if it doesn't end up being as good as slot 1, we have that slot 1 saved as a different file. So back into Hypershade. So we're on that floor texture. I want to raise the value up to say 0.65 and maybe 0.6. Okay. What else did I want to do? So that will brighten that up a little bit. I also want to take a little bit of the color out. So somewhere around there. I'm looking for that medium high contrast. I always forget where it's at. Color management, there we go. So we are set to medium contrast. Let's try medium high contrast. Okay. Just gonna save that and try another render. Okay, so there's that result. So we're in slot 2. Slot 1 was that. So we can compare. So I think slot 2 gives us more detail in our, our background. Less contrast, of course. But I think overall it's a good happy medium. And yeah, we're getting a good read on all of our forms. Good specularity. Object looks like it's metal. It could use maybe a little bump in specular. And the other thing we could play around with is the floor could have a little bit of, that reflective surface. I sometimes do that. It's really up to you. I'll go ahead and walk you guys through that though. We go back to Hypershade, grab that floor, and yeah, we'll just bump up the specular a little bit and take down the roughness. Okay, so like 0.37, 0.12 approximately. And then for our warm metal, I'm going to take the roughness down a little bit. Bring up the specular a little bit. Just a hair on each of those. Okay, and we will try that for a render. Alright, so there's that render there. We can see there's a little bit of reflectivity going on in the floor. If you wanted more, you would just take your floor material and bump up the specular and lower the roughness, and then you'll start to see more reflectivity in that ground plane there. We also have more specular going on in our reflectivity of the light sources in our metal surface. So that's looking really good. I think I am happy with the look of that. So I'm just going to go over to our render tab here and bump up this to, let's say, 512. Okay, and I'm going to render that. Alright guys, so here's that final render at that 512 sampling. You can see we've got just beautiful transitions on our forms, good contrast with the background. Alright guys, that wraps up this tutorial. If you've made it this far, congratulations. We went over a lot of things, from hard surface modeling without the use of booleans, to texturing, lighting, and rendering of this universal joint. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you guys next time. Hey guys, new merchandise is in, and really excited to share with you the new Maya config hat. So that's what I'm wearing here. There's also the Maya config shirt on the Gumroad page, as well as Formaffinity hat and shirt. So be sure to check that out if you're interested, and we will see you next time.